Hello and welcome to another episode of SEO Presso podcast. My name is Björn Darko and today I'm talking to Tomek Rudzki about an SEO playbook that he has published and that help SEOs and people that are responsible for SEO to review, evaluate, and build better websites. Tomek is head of research and development at Wonely, the most advanced technical SEO agency from Wrocław in Poland. He is co-founder of ZipTie, where he's working on a technical SEO and indexing platform and used to be a member of the English-speaking Toastmaster Club in Poland, the Wrocław Toastmasters Club, that is supporting people with gaining more confidence and improve their public speaking. SEO Press was presented to you by Searchmetrics, and Searchmetrics offers an SEO and content marketing platform that helps online marketers to grow organically in Google. And if you want to know more about Searchmetrics, go visit their website, searchmetrics.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the SEO Presso podcast on Spotify and all those beautiful podcast platforms. Hi, Tomek. It's really nice to have you on the show.
Hello, Björn. Thanks for your invitation. It's a pleasure to be there.
Thank you so much. The way how I approach you is that you have been posting on LinkedIn that you are working on an ebook as an SEO playbook that I found super, super interesting, because I think it is a nice way, not only for SEOs, but also for people that are new in SEO, to know from A to Z what to look at the website. And you have been building this SEO playbook that is now available. Can we say is this kind of a blueprint for a proper website audit?
Yeah, I think so. You can use this way, but what I would be really cautious about is don't treat the playbook as a checklist, because SEO is not a checklist. SEO is a set of activities that you can perform, but for every website, you decide which activities you have to perform to achieve the best of SEO. Because you cannot just blindly go through checklists, okay, tick, 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 because it doesn't work. For every website, you have to have a tailored strategy.
Yeah, and you also have to look to your niche and also into the competitors, what you are actually need to do, right? That's super important within SEO. One thing though that I found really, really interesting, that you also brought some personal opinions into the playbook, where you said that you live behind for some SEO principles where you live by, and you have for yourself 3 SEO rules. Can you explain a bit the SEO rules that you live by as an SEO?
So first of all, we have to understand that SEO is constantly changing. It's not something that you learn once and you practice for forever. So you have to be careful, you have to be watchful about what's happening in the industry. And also, it's a game when you don't improve yourself, then you are losing, because other players in the market are investing in SEO, this kind of stuff. Second, you have to prepare mostly for users. So it's all about not creating content just for crawlers to let them understand and see, okay, this is some valuable keyword, so Google appreciate, but you rather try to understand what users would appreciate. Because even if you rank top 1 for important terms and users come to your website and they say, okay, but this website looks very scammy and spammy, it doesn't answer my needs, then why should I use that website? So they bounce, and what's the profit? And the third rule, you have to understand that I'm not sure if it's written in the book, but this is the rule that I personally follow. So never trust everything you read, because mostly there are clickbaits, and every answer of John, Martin, Gary, whoever, depends very tightly on the context. So people try to fit Martin or John's answer to their website. Like sometimes it's very blindly. They don't follow context, and they try to apply this kind of recommendation to the website while this doesn't work, because the context is what matters the most.
That is very true. And also, I think their tips and their recommendation might be true on a general basis, but that's what I said in the beginning. You always also have to look into your competition, into your niche, and in your maturity at the end of the day as a website, right? So don't apply everything just blindly, but also looking at the things. And I think one of the things is the basics, right? And that's also like how I want to start my questions to you, because also in your playbook, if I go through it, there's still lots of basics to consider, right? You have URL structure, there's target keywords and page titles, headings, and so on and so forth. And at the other side, Google gives us always the assumption that they have evolved so much with mum, with bird, and so on and so forth to actually get the essence of every page. And still, we need to consider so much basics.
Yeah, same with the people. So we can focus on very important stuff. We try to discover things in SEO, but still, in overall, we are still human. So we sleep, we eat. Those are basic things. And same with headings, titles.
Yeah, that's true. And like based on the book, or you also gave a checklist out of this. Again, disclaimer: don't just follow the checklist, but based on the book and based on your experience, what is the most important topic to pay close attention to it if it comes to the book or the playbook?
Okay, so here I would refer to the third rule. Everything depends on the context. So you cannot just give general answer, okay, just follow these 5 most important things and you will be fine. One website needs very basic stuff like making Google understand what's there. There is total mess with headings. Other website has a huge problem with indexing because let's say server is really slow. There are millions of pages, index bloat. Another website just needs JavaScript SEO. Another website has problem with making it available in multiple countries. So you cannot just give general answer to every SEO questions. And then this is the first time when I say it, it depends. This is one of the most popular answer in the SEO industry. But when you buy a car, which one is the best? BMW, Mercedes, Porsche? So it depends on the context, depends on your needs. So why people drink hundreds types of beer? Why one person drink this kind of water, a second another? So everything depends on the context. But I was sending the ebook to some people in the SEO industry, and I got feedback that I could try to prioritize, if it's possible, the items in the checklist. And I was thinking about that, and my answer is that I really cannot prioritize because it depends on the context. But for the future, I'm planning something like this. Do you know social trading? When you invest in a stock exchange, you can follow some experts and you can copy their strategies. So I was thinking about reaching out to some SEO specialists in our industry, sending the checklist, and then asking them which items would they prioritize. So people could go into the playbook and see, okay, this expert says that this is usually the most important, and then there are 4 other really important items. But then you can also follow another expert depending on the person. Let's say one person is specialized with news SEO, second person is specialized in JavaScript SEO, another person is specialized with local SEO. And I believe that that's far more important than just blindly deciding, okay, because I trying to make it this way, this playbook for both beginners and then advanced player in the industry. That would make no sense. But if I divide by specialists who specialize in a specific niche, news SEO, JavaScript SEO, indexing, and local SEO, then people could follow them and try to copy their activities. And I believe that's something far more valuable than blindly saying, okay, this is more important, but this is not. Context.
You're kind of using swarm intelligence, SEO swarm intelligence to prioritize it.
Yeah, but there is disclaimer. This will take more time. I mean, because I think now we can move to my perceiving of the ebook, because why it's ebook, not printed version? Because I have a problem with printed books in the industry, because when you ask any SEO in the industry, they say, okay, this is what I hear. They're quite good books, but they're inaccurate and they're outdated. There is a lot of stuff happening in our industry, so I don't want to follow this way. I want to update the book quite frequently, like 3-4 times in a year, and then make it valuable for users, make it updated, and then when they have the fresh content, then I want to update and include the social planning in the playbook. So this will be for the second version of the playbook. Of course, users who paid for the first version will have access to updates.
I think that's a brilliant idea. It's really good. Let's jump straight into the book. And I tried for this podcast to take out from each and every aspect of SEO some parts, right? Let's start with the light version. Let's start with content. And I think the researching the user intent behind everything that you put up on your website is getting more and more important, right? What is on your playbook? Like, how do you investigate user intent? How do you do it? What kind of tools would you recommend, and what kind of an approach would you recommend to the users?
Okay, so of course there are some tools that you give us an input list of keywords and then they can classify that. But to better understand, especially for smaller websites, you can just type a keyword into Google, and then you see, let's say if you type iPhone X. I didn't check it, but I assume that it's divided by intent. So mostly there at the top there are information about iPhone. Then there are some shops and comparisons. So this is the intent that it's not clear. So Google is people can try on their own during the podcast. I guess I'm right. So this is not clear intent, but when you type, let's say, buy iPhone X versus iPhone, I believe there is iPhone 8, right? There was a 9, but there was 8. Okay. So when you compare iPhone X to iPhone 8, then of course Google is giving you information about what's the differences and things like that. When you type Apple, Google is not sure if you are asking about apples, I mean fruit, or a company. I still believe a scene from Forrest Gump when he thought that he invested in a fruit company and then he invested in Apple Inc. So that was one of the best investment. Yeah, but I was also playing with Google Natural Processing API, Natural Language Processing API, and then in some context, Google couldn't distinguish between fruit and company in some context, especially when you make grammar mistakes. So that was very interesting discovery for me.
I think like the intent itself would also define the way how you create the content, right? Let's take this example of iPhone X. It's a rather transactional, or buy iPhone is rather transactional query, and the intent should then also drive the amount of content you write. And now it gets more complicated to do keyword research or typical research on it, because it's in transactional topic. So don't put too much text on the page, but rather focus on the conversion itself, right? So the entire the entire idea of keyword research, topical research, and then come up with a text that you're writing is highly dependent on this investigation of user intent, right? So it gets far more complicated.
I can recall a famous example, not sure exactly who was the source of this information, but somebody shared on Twitter that he or she put a lot of information about products on a category page. And Google were ranking that for a product, but not for a category. So if the category was about phones, I'm not sure if it was phones or something else, it couldn't rank for phones, but just for iPhone X, even if the landing was about phones. So that was kind of interesting story showing how Google can decide about the intent depending on the content itself. There is a lot of into that, like headings. Heading usually are making for Google easier to understand what's inside on the page. It's not about making it ranking because there are keywords here, but it's about connection between content and what's into headings. We were playing a little bit with BERT, And then we saw a huge connection between how headings and content are related. If they are related, the page is there is high probability to get indexed. But if headings are not related to the content, then there is high probability that the content, the page won't be indexed. And if it's done on I still not have proof for that because we were looking at a small sample, but if that works on this fundamental level on indexing, then it's highly probable that it works on ranking too. So SEO science is very interesting to discover, and this is what I love.
Even though I had a professor on the podcast, and I asked him about, when it comes to the academical world, researching ranking factors should actually be like a no-brainer. That a lot of students like to do the research, right? And he answered me, yes. But it's impossible because there are so many factors that could, maybe there's your competitor. He lost a significant backlink. That's why you ranked number one. While you have, changed a heading, for example, and you assume it's your heading, but at the end of the day, it's the backlink of your competitor. So it's highly complex and really almost impossible to do proper research on ranking factors, for example.
Yeah, say the first rule: context matters.
Context matters. Let's jump over to monitoring. You also were talking about monitoring in your playbook, and working as a consultant, meeting so many SEOs in so many companies, monitoring was always kind of a pain in the ass for a lot of people. Of course, on the weekly KPIs that they're looking at, but also when it comes to deployments, right? When product and engineering was doing deployments, there might be a no index rule that was vanished with the deployment, or Robert's text wasn't there anymore, or any other things. Like, how would you say that today a basic monitoring, what should an SEO look at on a regular basis, and how could they set up a basic monitoring?
I assume that all the people who listen to your podcast are already familiar with Google Search Console, with Google Analytics, so I'm not talking about that. But there are some other stuff that you can add into that. So first of all, of course, install. Okay, it's not about installing; it's about activating Uptime Monitor. So if developers mess up with the code, whatever, and your server is down, or just hosting isn't responding, then you get email, SMS, whatever. Hey, something is wrong. I still remember when we switched PHP to version 8, and it was Friday. Of course, it was Friday.
Never deploy on a Friday.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got an email, but couldn't fix that at that moment because I didn't have password for the website. So, but I got email. That website that wasn't that important to bother developer to call him on Friday evening. But if that was, I got email and I could call him to fix the problem. But if that was important, I decided that it's not that important to bother him on Friday evening. And then, of course, there was Uptime Monitor. About robots text, it's really happening very commonly that something is broken with robots text. I don't say about this all. This is the most dangerous rule, but it happens. There are tools for that. Visual ping, for instance, it's free. Of course, there are a lot of updates in Google. So this way we have to be careful. We have to be watchful what's happening during the core updates. Of course, we can use Google Search Console, Search Metrics, this kind of stuff. When it comes to crawlers, definitely if you have a small website, set up crawlers once per week. I don't know if I can say about other products, but when it comes to SEO crawlers, I like the approach that Content King made. So they try to focus on the most important pages regularly, and then give you information, email, hey, something is broken with indexing part because page switched to no index. So this is something that they did really well. They can inform. They don't need.
And you have to predefine those pages, or they evaluate the most important pages by themselves?
I don't know exact algorithm they use, but they evaluate by themselves. So I can think of, depending on the page rank, internal page rank that these pages are giving. This is my assumption. Number of links, I guess category is more important than a product page that it's, and also I guess page level. If it's 5 level deep, it's less important than 1 level. This is my assumption, but this is something that they do really well. But of course, you don't need to use that, because it's not about promotion. Of course, you can use any crawler that you're using, but just set up, let's say, once per week if you have a smaller website. If you have a bigger website, you can decide about setting a small crawl, and this will go through the most important pages usually, because depending on the crawler, some crawler go deep first, and some other crawlers go depth first.
But it's interesting. So to sum it up, you mentioned Uptime. Uptime is actually a tool. I think it's from GitHub, right? Where they monitor in specific pages if they are up or down, for example. You mentioned visual ping. Visual ping is actually notifies you if visually anything changed on any specific page that you gave to visual ping. So they regularly monitoring it. And then, of course, like setting up a crawler for your most important pages. And you can leave that to tools like Content King, how to evaluate it. The way how we do it is, for example, that we look at the most revenue driving URLs that we have, and we constantly monitor them so that we are certain that they are. One thing though is when it comes to, and you mentioned it, to the next core update. And if you do a great job, then you don't have to fear anything. But we actually are looking forward to any core update, because then all the changes that we have made might get benefit in the next update, but others don't. And suddenly it happens that you have a drop in visibility, for example, or you have a drop in your traffic because of a Google update. How is your playbook hand-holding a reader to investigate what was causing the drop?
In general, when I speak about some problems, I decide about one rule: don't repeat yourself. So if something really valuable is on the internet, when there are some articles written by whoever has written that, but it's valuable, then I don't repeat that and just link into that. And I'm pretty sure that in the ebook there is information that really try to understand what's happening in core updates, and there was a link. But when it comes to core updates, and especially with some major changes, usually it's not that you change one simple thing that it's over. There was interesting discussion made by Google. So Google's usually they were saying, okay, there is nothing on your end that you can fix to recover. And they were repeating that over and over again. I mean, you have to follow this 20 item guide that you can recover, yeah? And for me, it was funny to discover that. I mean, how people react to that. So people try to copy what's coming from Google, and they were answering people having problems with core updates. They were copying the answers from Google, like trying to make it real. I mean, somebody is saying, okay, I've got a problem, what's happening? And then people answer with them on forums, Twitter, whatever, hey, this is what Google is saying, you cannot do anything if you have to work on the overall website quality. And then I was listening to podcast with Gary Ilsh, John and Martin, and Gary was against Google's politics to not to disclose what's happening, because he believes that there are some specific updates that have a clear answer how to fix that. So there is something that inside Google, but this is something that we don't have information about. So we have to really follow and say, okay, there is no one simple thing that you are cooperating with Searchmetrics, and Searchmetrics is known for analysis with after core updates. So I believe Searchmetrics will be the best fit. But I still remember when people were saying, okay, it's a medic update, but not only medic websites were affected. In 2018, there was, I still not remember what was the name of that. Was it threat or whatever? I'm not sure. insecure. And then people saying, okay, it's focus, because I know there are some valuable, knowledgeable people in our industry who do their own research, but it's not that that's the only reason. This is what they see and this is valuable, but there are some other, I don't know, tens or other factors that are affecting that. So people were saying, okay, this is the exact reason why and what kind of websites were affected. Then I was checking on Giphy.com, Pinterest.com, and I noticed something very different. Google just they indexed some of their catalogs that were previously they were bringing traffic, and then Google decided that, I don't know, there was index bloat, and these pages are not longer valuable for users. So when you look into that, you can find, okay, this website had problems with core update. Another had similar pattern, but this is like very small area that you are seeing. Other websites can be affected too. This is how it works. When you go into losers of core updates, you don't see a clear pattern. There are websites from other categories and things like that, but very commonly what works is like trying to do a proper audit, because there is, I don't know, when you drive a car and an engine is broken, you don't do a small fix, but you're going to a mechanic and then he or she is saying, okay, you have to fix this one, this, and then you are safe. You can drive your home to any place you want. But you need to fix the engine.
I mean, nothing has changed on that piece, right? I mean, you can on your own website identify patterns. If, as you said, you look into the winner and loser keywords, especially in the loser keywords, and you see a lot of keywords, for example, that you can isolate on a specific category, for example, then you drill down into the category and then you see, okay, there are 2 or just 3 categories that maybe make most of the loss. And then if you take the context of the core update, for example, if it's, general core update where you have a lot of usability maybe problems, if it's kind of, I mean, Panda is now integrated into it, but taking the context of the update and then trying to identify, but also looking at those domains that have won and taken your position, for example, and compare those single URLs with the competitor URLs, you might see that they have, I don't know, better usability, that they have more content on the page, that they have better structured content, that they is faster, that they have more backlinks, etc. pp. And that's how you can isolate some of the problems and make, for yourself kind of a checklist what you need to improve in order to gain those positions back, right?
This is exactly what I mean. The context really matters, and what I love about SEO is finding patterns. So once you set up monitoring and you have information, okay, I lost traffic I lost 50% of my visibility, traffic, whatever metric you are looking at, you can discover. You don't panic. You try to find some patterns, and you see, okay, one category lost. So why? Maybe there are no inlinks, no links. Maybe the content is terrible, and as you said, compare to your competitors and try to understand why Google is just promoting your competitors but not you. So this is extremely important.
Let's jump to crawling and indexing. And I know you're a big fan of that topic. That's why you also are working on ZipTie or ZipTie. How do you pronounce it? ZipTie. That you're also working on this indexing platform. And one thing that is commonly a trend now, or like a must, is mobile first indexing, because Google also tries to make all domains switch so that they are prepared for mobile indexing. And I give you one real life example from the company I work for. Yeah, so we are operating in 13 countries with the same platform. It looks, in every country looks the same. We have the same structure of the page. We have the same content on the page, and so on and so forth. So it's all the same. 12 countries have been switched. Just one country hasn't been switched. And there was one notification from Google in the Google Search Console that says the image.
Structured data or not?
No, not structured data. The images are different, and because we have our business model is that shops that we have listed on our platform can bid for a higher ranking on a specific page that is different from device to device. The problem wasn't the problem on all the other 12 platforms, but just on this single one. And then we adapted the sorting so that on mobile and on desktop is exactly the same sorting. You have exactly the same pictures with exactly the same URLs, exactly the same alt text, exactly everything was the same, still not switched. Why is that such a pain in the ass and so intransparent from Google to switch to mobile indexing?
I mean, they had a plan to switch all the websites into mobile first indexing, but they decided, okay, there are too many websites that aren't ready. So they had information, okay, it's not a priority for us. And when we assume that, let's say, 5% are not ready, or they decide that it's not ready, I mean, this 1 out of 13 websites of your client. So 5%, it's not a problem for them. They can handle that. So, but for any specific reason why algorithm decided not to switch that into mobile first indexing, I think Google will be the best company to ask, but if they can answer. But I wouldn't, if it's really same content and if other websites of your clients were migrated, I wouldn't be scared of that.
Yeah, so you would just see and wait what is happening. So actually bring Google into the responsibility to switch. I mean, what would happen? I mean, for this particular platform, it's one of the most visible domains in Germany, right? It's among the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, so it's in Poland and the US. Small websites were being migrated quickly, but then like bigger ones, most popular ones, where Google was really careful about migrating them because, people complain, this website got lost, but you said that there will be no side effect of migrating to mobile first indexing. So yeah, I don't know, maybe they follow in Pareto rule or whatever. Yeah, but that was the pattern. Small websites were migrated quickly, but popular ones and especially bigger ones were migrated like very considerably, I would say.
Wow. Okay, but the rule in general is, to keep it as like be mobile ready to be indexed, and also to keep, if you have two different sites, an M.dot site, let's say, and then another domain, which you shouldn't nowadays, but then keep the content as close as possible, and that's a kind of the general rule, right?
When you have different content on mobile and different on desktop, usually there is more content on desktop and then less on mobile. So once Google will switch you to mobile first indexing and you have different content, then you can lose your position, your rankings. But in your case, Bjorn, if it's the same, it doesn't change anything except for indexing and the user agent. I wouldn't call it a problem. You like recommendation, like wait and see what happens, can be disastrous when you expect some side effects, but I wouldn't expect that in this case. So I would say your client's website is secure.
All right then. Let's come to the last topic. And I know that you and I think, was it Bartosz, is it right? He kind of brought the topic of JavaScript SEO into the industry because you did a lot of research on this one. And I remember back 2015 or 16 where I and Bartosz was speaking on the same conference. And I know that you have done a lot of research on this as well, and you published a lot of it. And let's look at JavaScript as a last part of this podcast. Is Google handling today, as they always said, also back then, is Google handling JavaScript much better today than it is 2015-16?
So this question has two parts, I guess. You asked the first question, but you didn't ask the final question. So answer in the first question, is it handling much better? Yes. Is it handling? This is your question. Is it handling it perfectly? Not. So answering your unanswered question, it's not handling perfectly, but it's handling much better. When we compare Google to 2017, when we think of this, like the very old browser, 2017, 2018, 19, when Google were using Chrome 41, even because that was funny to looking at the problems of Google in that time, when Google was saying everything is fine, just use JavaScript, we will handle everything. That was keep calm, and then Bartosz made an experiment. That was quite funny because we were checking the most popular frameworks, very basic ones. I mean, we were following official documentation of these frameworks, nothing fancy, just official documentation. And it turned out that Angular couldn't be rendered by Google, and that was a plot twist because Angular was a project made by Google. Same with Polymer.js. They were using the code in official documentation that wasn't comply with Chrome 41 because it was technical. I mean, it was ES6, and that was very popular technology in that time. But Google were using a very old browser that couldn't handle that. And then we had a conversation with Ilya Grigorik from Google, and then he noticed what was the cause of that. So he said, okay, that was a problem with ES6, so Google couldn't handle. And then, that, just to give you a context, it wasn't like normally you would say, oh, I go to Google Search Console and I see that Google cannot render it properly. In that time, there was no tool for that. No, you couldn't check if Google is rendering it correctly or not, because Google didn't think that was a problem. They were saying everything was fine. It wasn't.
Just imagine you wouldn't have done this research and we would just rely on Google's approach and say, no, everything is fine, we can handle this. How many websites, with the rise of the popularity of also Angular, how many websites would have lose a lot of business if they would just rely on this?
80% of the most popular e-commerce stores in the US.
Oh my God.
Not sure about Germany because I was checking the US, but 80% the most popular e-commerce stores in the US use JavaScript for important content, like at least related items. So it's all about links, right? If Google couldn't follow links, it couldn't index content, and etc. But there were a big number of sites that were trying to have their main content generated by JavaScript. And this is the whole history of JavaScript SEO, whole funny and interesting story, because then it was recommendation to use dynamic rendering, so serving Googlebot version that was static, but that wasn't perfect because it was really difficult to spot the problem. Let's say there was one of the most popular commenting plugin for WordPress is called discuss.com. There are millions of websites that are using that. So their official website is facing that problem. Version for the users is perfectly fine, but the version for Googlebot is presenting just title, head, and that's all. There is no body, because it had problems with that. We were seeing that multiple times when the whole e-commerce platforms were using the rendering that wasn't like sufficient for Google. So yeah, that's the whole story. Many times I was like had opened eyes, what's happening. But if we rely on the initial recommendation that Google is rendering it perfectly, then I would say 80% of the most popular stores would fail. Of course, depends on the context. If 80% fall, then everybody is falling. Just 20% are gaining. But
I had a great example because I had a client back then. They were relying on Angular JS, and I wrote an article about it. It's called Pitfalls When You Use JavaScript Frameworks or so. It's on the Searchmetrics blog. But essentially what they did, it was a news website, right? So they were publishing news on a daily basis. Yet was doing their pre-render, like they had static HTML caching. So they created a already pre-rendered version, cached them in HTML, but we're refreshing it once a week. And for specific category pages, once a month. So they had the problem that their most recent articles didn't get into the index because Google never saw them. They just updated it once a week, right? So that was one big mistake. And the other big mistake was that before, so Google was getting the JavaScript version, which had different meta titles and different meta information in general than the pre-rendered HTML cache version. So, and this is already something that you need to consider, and I think still consider that the most. Who put it like, I think somebody from Google also put it like this: first things first, right? So that you put the most important information, meta information, structured data, and so on and so forth, already in the version that is not pre-rendered yet, so that Google can already start to get an idea about what the page is about before then extracting JavaScript and getting into the meat to the bone, right?
Right. And I just see very tight connection between what Google were saying that 3 or 4 years ago that they can handle JavaScript and say with indexing. They can handle indexing, but I would say it's not that ideal. There are lots of websites having huge problems with indexing. And I see that there is a full cycle that it's happening now, and we will see what the future brings. But when it comes to JavaScript SEO, it's not about Google; it's about real problems by developers. I've seen some interesting cases when the script was falling, the no index were placed into the code. It happened to the API call wasn't successful. And as a result, Google got information, okay, there is no index, so we need to delete that page from the index so it couldn't rank. And something similar is happening to official website of AngularJS, but I assume developers are top-notch, so the code still didn't broke, but I waited with the popcorn for that moment and then...
Tomek, thank you so much for being on the show. It was really inspiring. It was a really nice talk. We have to make a cut. We are already longer than I actually wanted this podcast, but it was great talking to you. For all the listeners, there's this SEO Playbook by Tomek Rudzki. It's out now. Please get it. There's also a checklist that helps you to evaluate, review websites much better. It's a nice blueprint for an audit, but consider you have to have the context. Don't just follow it stupidly. Thank you, Tomek. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we see and hear next week again on the SEO Presso podcast. Ciao.